Socialism has existed not just in Scandinavia for decades, but also in the United States also for many decades especially since the administration of FDR and his New Deal program. So therefore, socialism has no more brought down the Scandinavian nations than it has brought down the United States. We are already living in a socialistic system. There's nothing mutually exclusive between socialism and capitalism, as they have coexisted already in these countries that are considered socialistic, not just the Scandinavian countries, but also the United States, for many decades. Therefore, when you look at Venezuela, they are failing. There is no doubt about that. But if they are failing in their socialistic state, but United States and the Scandinavian countries and other countries that are also socialistic are not failing, especially not failing to the degree that Venezuela is. Therefore, there must be some other cause to Venezuela's downfall than socialism. It seems to be an obvious, prima facie evident fact, given the circumstances. Therefore, there must be some other cause for Venezuela's downfall. And I think it's obvious that it's a combination of corruption there, rampant corruption, along with an authoritarian regime. Venezuela, they have blatantly and openly imprisoned political opponents. And the nations, I believe that the Cold War era Communist Party countries were they were brought down primarily by their authoritarian manner in which they ran the country. I believe in myself, I'm more so of a libertarian communist. I believe communism can succeed, but it needs to be done in a libertarian manner, that it's done for the benefit of the individual and maximizing their freedom. I think that it would be a system of collectivism for the sake of individualism. And we also have lots of communism in our own country right now, and it's succeeding, and it's helping bring about most of the freedoms that we take for granted, for much of the freedoms, such as the public roads that anybody can go on at any time without paying any toll to some capitalist. You just, and also the parks, public parks. Those are communally owned roads, streets, parks, bridges, sidewalks, bike paths, bridges, and such. Those are all communally owned. Therefore, there's a communistic programs when you have public ownership of any of those infrastructure systems that we provide the freedoms that we take for granted. So I support that kind of form of communism that maximizes freedom. But I'm getting a little off track. I just wanted to point out that socialism is not the cause of Venezuela's downfall. I want to repeat that since it seems like the plutocrats are getting a little concerned by the success of especially Ocasio-Cortez's victory in the primary. So I think that the plutocrats, the billionaires, they're getting a little nervous maybe. They're worried about they don't want to give up any of their massive hoards of wealth that they have selfishly amassed. So then the rest of us cannot have to struggle so much. And, they don't want to give up a dime. They're very selfish, greedy people, and they don't want to give up the power either that all that massive hordes of billions brings them. They love the power, they love the money, and they don't want to give it up. And so that I think they fund a lot of this the propaganda that's put out. I think they just keep repeat. They think that if they keep repeating the lie that socialism is causing Venezuela's downfall, then they are hoping that people eventually believe that. I think that's their strategy of those plutocrats that are behind the capitalist plutocratic propaganda that you keep hearing them repeating, that socialism is causing Venezuela's downfall. So I'm trying to repeat that no, it is not. If socialism has caused their downfall, then Scandinavian countries would have fallen many decades ago. It's obvious the case that socialism is not the cause of Venezuela's downfall. It's the corruption and authoritarian regime that they're running there. And also I see a lot of or more capitalistic propaganda videos coming on where people where they're trying to say there's no way to pay for the socialism. Well, we've paid for socialism since the FDR government, and it's worked out just fine. We managed to pay for it, and so it's just a question of, well, how do we get pay for it all this time? And if we're just going to, all that would happen under say if a plan of something that like Ocasio-Cortez is advocating for is just an expansion of socialism. It's not going to be an absolute elimination of capitalism by any stretch of the imagination. If capitalism and socialism coexist just fine for many decades, and it will continue to coexist just fine. It's more of a matter of a safety net, and also it often enhances many aspects of capitalism insofar as when the masses get more funds from, say, if you raise the minimum wage, then they're going to have more money to spend. That's called increasing the aggregate demand. So that people get more money. It's just the same basic principle that Henry Ford applied when he said, well, you need to pay the workers enough so they can afford to buy the cars that they're producing. It's the same basic concept, but it's expanded or generalized in a more overall economic system. So that if you increase the minimum wage, well, then those people that are going to have a bigger paycheck, and then they're going to be able to spend more, and then the businesses that get that money that they're spending will flourish, and so there'll be a knock-on benefit to all those businesses that are now getting bringing their cash register more because the workers have more money to spend. It's pretty simple as that. But there is one. The most important point there is, I think, is that the people that will not benefit as much are some of those of the extremely wealthy, the billionaires. See, the only way that we're going to pull off being able to shift more of the wealth towards the working masses, the working class, will be to shift some of that wealth, redistribute some of that wealth to those masses. And as a result, the billionaires are concerned, I believe. They do not want to give up one penny. They are a bunch of pre-Epiphany Scrooges. And they will do anything and everything in their power to make sure that they do not lose any of their massive mountain hoards of wealth. They have a hoarding disorder, and they need an intervention. And an intervention is in the form of that we start taxing those billionaires. We need to institute an asset tax on the billionaires, where we can it would act like a local property tax. Only it will be on all the assets, not just real estate of the billionaires. We need to go after all their assets. We could be a progressive taxation program where, say, somebody that has like 1 billion maybe would be taxed at the rate of 10% of their assets would be taxed, and but somebody with 100 billion, then they would get taxed at maybe the rate of 99% of their assets would be taxed, or maybe 90%. I don't know. We can work out how we'll go about it. Maybe it'll be 99.9% of the billionaires, and then maybe the one for somebody with 100 billion, and then have a tax of 99% for somebody with 1 billion. But we can work out the details later. Right now, I just want to make sure that we can. I want to propose that, and I think the only counter argument for such a program would be concerned that a lot of the assets for billionaires is held up in stocks. So if they sold all those stocks to pay those taxes, then that could create too much of a supply of those particular stocks, which would There'd be supply without increasing demand. Would that increase in supply would drive down the price of the stocks and could crash the markets, and that could very well happen. So what I propose is to create a new stock market fund called the U.S. government fund that would be traded just like any other mutual fund. You can buy shares, sell shares, but the only way, but it would just be the billionaires could pay their asset tax in the form of their the stocks in the company they own. So they can just say if if a billionaire has like 10 billion in stocks in one company, they could just say, okay, and they owe 9 billion, then they can pay their tax, their $9 billion tax bill in the form of the $9 billion worth of those the shares in their company, and then those 9 billion worth of shares would go into the U.S. government fund, the USGF, we could call it, but the government then would not sell any of those shares right away. Oh, they put it on. If I should say, if anybody wants to buy a share, they can buy a share, but that's the only way that the government would get revenue from that, other than dividends. Also, dividend income would be a way that the government would be able to get revenue also from that U.S. government fund. So if anybody wants to buy a share in that fund, then the government will get the revenue from that sale of that share. Also, when people buy shares if you buy a share, or even if nobody buys a share, the citizens would get a proportionate share in the companies that are part of that fund, and then therefore they could have a vote on the government, on the shares that are the corporate shares that are inside the U.S. government fund. Therefore, the people would now have a vote. Overall would be greater amount of votes in the corporations, for shareholder meeting votes than currently the billionaires do. So now that would create a democratization of the corporatocracy. Then people could start insisting that the corporations pay their workers better and have better environmental policies and better global policies around the world and how they do business. So I better wrap this up. It's getting a little bit longer than I had planned on, but I wanted to get those points across. Thank you for listening, and good luck.